Like mythical, if somebody tells you there's a floating island out there with like fairies and shit, and they every Thursday they're out there blowing lines of cocaine, and on Tuesdays they're just running out there butt naked all willy nilly, and they're probably
bouncing gold coins off a stripper's ass.
There is a leprechaun that gets fucking pounded. Yeah, they'd be like, you know what? I believe you. I fucking believe you. Like,
it's like a leprechaun Hooters bar called Shamrocks.
Yeah, just.
Welcome back, everybody, to Shadows and Sightings, a paranormal podcast where we talk about all things spooky. I'm Taylor.
I'm Nick.
And we've got our new episode today about some Irish things. We were going to do this episode we were talking because we were like, oh, when's our next recording date? And it was like, well, we got, the New York trip, the cruise coming up. We were like, oh, well, St. Patrick's Day. Of course, here we are, April 1st. But I was like, well, let's do some Irish mythology and Irish folklore. Yeah. And you dive into that rabbit hole and it's like, oh my gosh, there is a lot to unpack there. Oh, yeah. So as I was researching, I found a pretty cool place, and you may have heard of it. You may not have heard of it. It was called Leap Castle. It's spelled L-E-A-P. So I thought it was Leap Castle until I started watching videos on it. Everybody called it Leap Castle. It's got everything that you could ever want in a haunted castle. Bloodshed, murders, clan wars, druid magic.
Sounds like a typical Thursday night to me.
Yeah, typical day in Ireland.
Yep, just bloodshed.
So we're a little late on the Irish folklore and Irish themed thing for St. Patrick's Day, but we're going to do it anyway.
Absolutely.
Because we're adults. We could choose what we do.
We could do what we want.
Yeah.
Next week, if I want to talk about possessed demonic clowns, that's what we're going to fucking talk about.
Actually, I was thinking about that today. Remember back in 2020 when the whole clown craze happened?
Oh, the people dressing up like clowns on the side of the roads
hiding
and
in the woods and
yeah.
Remember when we should do an episode on that.
We could. I completely number one, I forgot about that. I thought it was so stupid.
It was wild.
But yeah,
maybe it was 2016 because I remember it was like. It was 2016 because we had Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump running for president, and I will never forget the memes of it being like, where the fuck's Batman when you need him? You got evil billionaires running for president, evil clowns roaming the streets.
Yeah.
So I've got Leap Castle on my list of things, my one thing to talk about today.
Yeah.
And what do you got, Nick?
I got Hy-Brasil. So what is it? It's a mythical island that...
I like how you answered your question. What is it? Well, I'll tell you.
Well, thanks for asking, Nick. You're really kind. You actually care. You give me a voice. I'm glad. I'm glad I do. But it's basically this mythical island that, depending on what legend you look at, it exists, quote unquote, exists off of the west coast of Ireland. It appears once every 7 years and for one day. And then when it's not there, it's enshrouded in this mythical thick fog.
Ooh.
The reason why I found it so interesting when I first learned about Hybrasil a couple of years ago, I forget what show. I think I was watching The Unexplained with William Shatner.
Okay.
Such a great fucking show. God bless that man.
He's going to bury us all.
He's
like 100 years old and he still looks great.
Right? What is his secret? What is his secret?
Him and Willie Nelson, man.
That's another one. Yeah. So Harrison Ford is
he's one.
Of course, his age is showing, but his age is really showing. But in that ad that he had for the Super Bowl with Jeep.
Oh yeah.
And which was like a jab at Ford, their Bronco. It just really catches, really shows his age. But anyways, it's this mythical island that appears supposedly off of the west coast of Ireland. What I find so interesting about it though is I want to say not Arthurian, but semi-ancient charts. So back in the medieval times, so nautical charts dating around the 1200s, 1300s. Mm-hmm. This island actually appears on maps.
Okay.
Actual maps, that sailors used back then. Seafaring maps. All the way up until recently, the 1850s. Until finally they were at that point, okay, this is just
I don't think this place is real.
I don't think the place is actually real. But it is interesting. as to why it has appeared so much throughout the history. So like it leads to speculation. Like, was there something actually there? Is it still there? Is it sunken? Or maybe it does really only appear every 7 fucking years. Who's to know? Who's to know? So that's what I got on my agenda for today.
Well, you know what? I feel like I usually start these episodes. So today, Nick.
Yeah, let's do it.
In the gracious spirit of St. Patrick, as I wear my Guinness hat.
All right.
I will let you take it away on Hy-Brasil.
All right, Hy-Brasil, not to be confused with the country Brazil. It's not even spelled the same way. Hy-Brasil, it's spelled Hy-Brasil. So if you look up Brazil, Hy-Brasil, that's what you should be looking for. Mm-hmm. It comes from Celtic mythology and Irish folklore. And like I had mentioned, it's said to be visible from Ireland's west coast one day every 7 years and is otherwise hidden by fog. It is known by different names, including Hy-Brasil, Brazil.
You got to say it in an Irish accent.
But I don't want to offend anybody. Brazil, Brazil, the Enchanted Island, and the Isle of the Blessed. First appeared as Hybrasil on a map by a I'm going to butcher this, Majorcan cartographer Angelino Dolcert in 1325.
Hey, that was pretty good.
And then it also appears in a map by Venetian cartographer Andrea Bianco in 1436, which on the map it's noted as the Insula del Brasil. Again, it appears by Spanish cartographer Diego Gutierrez in 1562, and it's labeled the Isola de Brasil, placing it in southwest Ireland. One thing that's interesting is there seems to be some confusion as to where this island actually appears. Like sometimes it's like, oh, it's in the west coast of Ireland. It's in the southern west coast of Ireland. I've even seen things where it's like it's actually like up near the Antarctic, and it's like this island is like kind of moving around a lot.
Yeah.
And then of course the last known appearance was on a British Admiralty chart in 1873.
Interesting that so many people have claimed to see it.
I think we'll kind of get into that in a second, but see, there is a book called In the Traces of Elder Faiths of Ireland that came out in 1902, and it was written by W.G. Wood Martin, and he has a section in there where he's talking about phantom lands, and one of those phantom lands is, Hy-Brasil. He tells us that in the 17th century, Roderick O'Flaherty said that the phantom island of Hy-Brasil, marked on many old charts near the west coast of Ireland, was in his time often visible. So we have reports of people who have claimed to have actually seen an island off of like the coast of Brazil.
Wow, it really is in the wrong place.
Yeah, in Ireland. The subject has inspired several poets with beautiful fancies, which have been woven into. I thought this was weird. They said pathetic ballads. When you hear the word pathetic, what do you think of?
A pathetic ballad sounds to me like a really sad song. Like
sad,
slow, kind of like an old Hank Williams song. That's what I think of. A pathetic ballad, yeah.
What if you say that though?
Like I'm so lonesome I could cry. Like that would be like a pathetic ballad.
Okay. It really showcases like where my mind is, because when I hear pathetic, I think of like incompetence. You're pathetic.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I get it.
It's pathetic.
Let's sing a song about how fucking stupid you are.
Freaking jackass. Can't even tie your own fucking shoes. These are flip-flops. Pathetic.
Still. Yeah. You can't flip your own flops.
Yeah, that's what I think when I hear the word. But
okay.
I'm going to read this this poem here. On the ocean that hollows the rocks where ye dwell, a shadowy land has appeared, as they tell. Men thought it a region of sunshine and rest, and they called it Hy-Brasil, the island of the blessed. From year unto the ocean's blue rim, the beautiful spectra showed lovely and dim. The golden clouds curtained the deep where it lay, and it looked like an Eden away, far away. Apparently, if you fucking go there,
wow, that was beautiful.
That's what. Yeah,
beautiful.
I can.
Well done.
I can read. So one of the things about this island, it's kind of like, have you ever heard of the book Lost Horizons?
Nope. I have
not. It's a book that was written probably around the same time that this guy wrote this book, like in the early 1900s. And it's about this plane that crashes in the mountains of the Himalayas. and they find this like civilization up in the Himalayan mountains, and it's like this mythical place called Shangri-La.
Oh, okay.
And the people who live there, they're so high up in the mountain, and like there's something in the water that preserves their youth.
Okay.
So they're ancient as mess.
Shangri-La sounds familiar. I thought that was actually a real place.
I mean, it's like a mythical.
Yeah. I thought it was like a monastery.
I mean, we have Shangri-La in Greencastle, which is like a
the Chinese buffet.
It's like a no, it's not. Of all things, it's like a housing thing or something.
Okay.
You know, every time I pass, I'm like, why the fuck? But whatever. I'm not the business owner. But yeah, it's like, you know, it preserves their youth there. Hy-Brasil is kind of like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you manage to find yourself on this island, it has like this youth preserving like qualities or whatever. So
kind of like Fountain of Youth.
Basically, yeah. They're trying to find this mythical place. If they can manage to get to it,
all their problems will be solved.
Basically, yeah. Their youth,
we'll have riches beyond compare.
There's like
we'll have more Guinness than anyone's ever seen.
Right? Exactly. There's like tales of like it being a place where like fairies and fae exist. Okay. It's like a mythical like dimension kind of thing. Lots of strange lights, you know. So sailors often reported from the coast, you know, like they can see this island. There's like strange lights coming off it and all that. It's
kind of like a Polar Express. There in the distance, it looks like the strange lights of a ocean liner, and the frozen there is the North Pole. That's kind of what I think.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, when we were on that cruise, no bullshit though. There was one night when we walked out there, you could see like a bunch of different, because like I love being on a ship. It's really cool, but it's also fucking terrifying.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I'm sitting there looking at the water. I'm like, if I just fell off this boat right
Nobody
now,
would know.
Nobody would know. I'm fucking dead.
Who would know?
I'm fucking dead. Yeah. Like they would just keep going, and I'm just in the dark, just like, help. Yeah, and not a single soul, you know, is going to hear me. And I'm just, you could see a couple other cruise liners, same thing. They looked like tiny on the horizon, but like you can see the lights and all that. And I was like, it's just kind of trippy, like seeing that.
Yeah.
But of course, many attempts have been made to find this island. Leslie of Glasgow. I tried to research this. I don't know who Leslie of Glasgow is, but I'm assuming to like Irish people that name.
Well, Glasgow is Scottish, so
yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe people in the UK know who like Leslie of Glasgow. Like if you're asking an American, do you know who John Wayne is? Like every American is going to be like, fuck yeah, who John Wayne is. But you know, like is it the same thing over there? I don't know. Described as a wise man and a great scholar, was so imbued with the belief in its real existence that he solicited the Grand Isle from Charles I. Edmund Ludlow, the celebrated Republican, escaped to the continent in a vessel chartered at Limerick in search for Hy-Brasil. So there's people that are like putting expeditions in place to try to actually find Hy-Brasil.
Not too dissimilar from the FDR cryptid task force that he put together to find the Snallygaster.
He's like, we're going to get that son of a bitch. It's just like, it's so funny.
Or Teddy Roosevelt. Sorry, not FDR. Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, Teddy. It's so funny because I can just see it right now where he probably like walked in like the office and he has like, what's on your agenda for today? Like a 9:00 meeting with like a diplomat, like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, just Snallygaster.
Cryptid task force.
Just like Snallygaster. All right, give me the deets. Like, why haven't we found this son of a bitch yet? God damn it. But it's cool. Like if you can actually go online, if you just type in Hy-Brasil maps, like seafaring maps or whatever, you can actually find like a bunch of old dated maps, and it says like on there like Hy-Brasil. So it's really cool seeing like these ancient maps and how at one point in time something was happening where
something was there.
Something was there, yeah. or at least it was very commonly accepted,
right,
that this was like an actual island off like the coast. Like I said, the existence of a land which would restore the age to the full vigor and youth was a worldwide belief, but all attempts to discover it nearly ended in disappointment. Nevertheless, the strange spirit of his adventure continued to endure. Yeah. And it laid open view to countries that would also expand their search to try and find it. That's another thing that I was kind of like looking into. Like, I want to know how this kind of came about with Columbus. Because if he was an explorer, I wonder if this would have like came across like his repertoire.
Like, I gotta
try to find it or whatever.
But by that time, because you said this is like a kind of like
so this is like 1300. So this is before
Columbus is only like 100 years later.
1400s, right?
1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah, there you go. So,
I think.
So this Hy-Brasil kind of starts around like the 1300s, and then.
But yeah, I mean that makes sense that he would be like at least be like, hey, like maybe we should try to fucking find this thing.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. It probably was, on the agenda for a lot of explorers trying to find it.
Probably like the Vikings, probably too, were on the lookout for it because they were constantly in Ireland around that time. And actually, I forget what the reference was, but that has shown up in pop culture. There was a series, I think, that involved like Vikings or something, and that was Hy-Brasil's mentioned in the show as like the gateway to like the New World,
to Asgard.
Oh,
like there's some horn there. They blow this horn, and then like it opens up these gates to Asgard.
Damn,
and,
that's cool.
I thought it was pretty neat. To this day, like there's really, if you look obviously like on a modern map, there's really nothing there now. Like there's nothing.
Right.
And then of course the speculation was it was just rumors from sailors, trying to. I saw a thing where it was a rumor that was kind of spread by sailors to try to discourage other people, but that didn't make sense to me because if I'm a sailor and I'm told of this land which is essentially like the fountain of youth and an opportunity, I mean, I'm going to let my mind speculate, well, what else is there? It's like this mythical place.
Right. Could be leprechauns, could be fairies, could be.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the idea is that maybe it was like a tale, kind of like a cautionary tale, like, hey, like this place is like, it's dangerous, kind of stay away from it, as you're exploring the new world, to like maybe promote more caution. But I think that rarely ever works for people, for humans, and it always backfires. You tell somebody not to go somewhere, they're going to go fucking looking for it and try to go there. Of course, yeah. They never fucking fail.
Like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, yeah, fucking sign me. Let's find it. But yeah, no, if you get a chance, go check out like just type in like Hy-Brasil maps and kind of like look into the lore of it.
Yeah. I think because like 1300s, you have Ireland is basically at that time, from my understanding, a republic of clansmen, right? So you have different clans all over Ireland, constantly warring with each other to take land or whatever. If there's a clan that starts a rumor about a mythical island off the coast of Ireland, what would stop, like you're getting at, what would stop people from going to look for it and ultimately sailing to their doom, never finding it, and just going forever? Yeah, perishing at sea.
It's
like, okay, well, that took care of them.
We'll never see those guys again. Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Modern explanations, like I said, they said it was kind of just like rumors, and then I don't want to say that people were like dumb back then, because they weren't. They just thought differently. And
you had reason to believe other people.
It was obviously, this is before modern science, scientific method, hasn't really been honed in. We're starting to see, that kind of come into play. So if that's like in the 1300s, what Isaac Newton's only a couple, he's 1500s, I think.
He's 1643 to 1727.
Yeah, so this is like before the theory of like the theory of gravity and all that. Before the laws of gravity and the motion and all that stuff. Yeah.
Scientific revolution.
And like before
coming in after that. Yeah.
Before that, so I think this is a period of time where it probably was pretty commonplace to accept as fact, like mythical. If somebody tells you there's a floating island out there with like fairies and shit, and they every Thursday they're out there blowing lines of cocaine, and on Tuesdays they're just running out there butt naked all willy nilly, and they're probably
bouncing gold coins off a stripper's ass.
There is a leprechaun that gets fucking pounded. They'd be like, you know what? I believe you. I fucking believe you. Like,
it's like a leprechaun Hooters bar called Shamrocks.
Yeah, just all sorts of like obscenity and gold and indecency and
it's out there. I'm telling you,
it's real. I seen it. Hy-Brasil. Yeah,
I was there. I woke up 6 days later.
So I wouldn't put it past them, if they didn't really question it. So, of course, as like the shipping industry and like the Great Age of Sail, but as commerce, as like the commerce starts like improving over the world, like the shipping lanes and all that. I think over time they're kind of just like, we've sailed by there all the fucking time, and not once have I seen one fucking leprechaun out on that.
That's because you didn't do it on a specific day at a specific time at the specific time of year.
It's like, yeah.
Has it been 7 years since anybody's seen it?
Well, shit. Only once every 7 years.
Just get the Bob treatment. Well, I don't understand why you didn't see it.
Well, I don't get why she's got no fucking faith. That's the problem. Fucking non-believer.
So what is your opinions on Hy-Brasil then?
I think I want to believe.
What's your wildest fantasy about? That sounds so weird. That sounds like a weird way of putting it, but what's your wildest theory or fantasy on what Hy-Brasil was or could have been?
I think it was an offshoot of Lumeria.
Oh. Like the tectonic plates broke Lumeria off and then Hy-Brasil floated over near it.
Because remember Lumeria kind of like jumps around or whatever. Yeah. What if Lumeria and Atlantis and Hy-Brasil are all the same fucking place?
They're like the 3 superpowers of the ancient world.
They get sucked into a vortex and they ended up in Machu Picchu up in the mountains in Peru.
And then the Sri Lankans or
Shangri-Lians, like it's all full circle. It's all coming.
And that's when Jesus beamed down from his spaceship.
I'm fucking telling you, man. Now the truth is
out there.
I honestly think that it probably was just a bunch of misinterpretations. Mm-hmm. Like I do believe that sailors probably saw something, but I believe that it was at a time where, because I think the way that it was set up, like how they actually had such accurate maps was they relied on like true north, and they would look at the dimension, not the dimensions, but like the coordinates of like the shipping ports that they would stop at, right, in relevance to where true north is.
Did you ever watch Vikings? The TV show Vikings. It's like in the very early part when they're like, "Oh, we're going to sail to England and whatever. We're going to sail," and they had some sort of bucket with a stone or something. I honestly, somebody will probably call me out on this, but and that's how they figured out what true north was, because of some way of the magnetic fields shifting this kind of stone that they had. Yep. And that's how they could find their way across the vast oceans. That's
why if you look at like those like old like nautical maps, there's lines just drawn like, and those lines essentially are like routes, but they're based off of where true north is, I believe, in comparison to where the port is. And I think as over time, as things improved, then they kind of realized, oh shit, maybe this is wrong. So maybe they did see something, but it wasn't, because it was so early back then that they didn't really know where they were, I think. Right. And maybe there was some confusion there. Yeah. That's the logical, rational part, was what I'm saying. Yeah. But nobody gives a fuck about that. We care about the illogical, irrational
we're here
part.
for the shadows and the sightings.
Shadows and the sightings. I'm thinking interdimensional. It appears once every 7 years. We need to go out there and camp out the coast of Ireland.
For 7 years.
7 years with some binoculars and just wait. I think it's like an interdimensional portal that kind of shows up once every 7 years.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Full of fairies, full of leprechauns.
Just debauchery across the board.
Oh, yeah. Just Shay Gorath is just there.
Illegal gambling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You got a permit for that? No, I do not. All right, you're good to go.
You don't need one.
You don't need one. Why? Because it's fucking Hy-Brasil.
Hy-Brasil.
And we do. I want a shirt that says that. You got a permit for that? Nope, this is Hy-Brasil.
It's like that stupid ass casino planet that they introduced in Star Wars, The Last Jedi, the worst movie of all time. Second worst movie behind Rise of Skywalker. But remember they went to like that whole big casino planet? That's just Hy-Brasil, only it's just a little island.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's a portal to a casino like planet where it's way bigger than it actually like the island is.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
It's like you open like it's a portal. It's like a door.
It's like a speakeasy.
It's just like, it's like but you open it up and it's just like.
It's like a room of requirement.
No, yeah, you open it up, you walk through the door, and it leads to like the dumpster behind a Waffle House. It's a Denny's, and Mothman is just eating your fucking ass out. Jesus Christ. And then you're like, oh, that's where the bumper sticker came
from. Why are there so many catalytic converters here?
What the fuck is going on? What kind of strangeness is this? Yeah.
That's my goodness, the Irish Mothman.
No, you go through the door and it leads to this castle that you're about to tell us
it goes
about.
to
It goes to
Lep Castle?
Lep Castle.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I'm kind of curious to hear about. I'm kind of curious, like what I've never even heard of this place.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah, it took me a little bit of digging to find it because, like I said, I was originally looking at doing like the druids, the Celtic druids, and the fairies and the fae and like banshees and stuff. But I was like, why would I want to talk about all of those things in one episode when we could stretch this thing out for multiple episodes?
So what you're saying is we're gonna be making multiple trips to Lep Castle.
No, not Lep Castle, just like Irish folklore in general.
Oh yeah,
all kinds of different.
Sure,
because Ireland's full of history and myths and folklore and folk tales. Yeah. It's an old place, so they have a lot of deep, dark secrets and rich histories to dive through that I think would make for great individual episodes. Yeah. So Lep Castle is kind of around the same time frame as Hy-Brasil, honestly. Right. Nobody really knows exactly when it was constructed, but kind of like modern takes on it puts it being built around 1250 AD, and it was built by the O'Bannon clan. It's not on the west side of Ireland. It's kind of like right smack dab in the middle. Okay. It's located County Offaly. So basically this castle was a ceremonial ground before it was ever built. And that's where the druid stuff comes in. That's how I got to Lep Castle. Oh, shit. So it was kind of a hotspot for druids to practice their rituals and their magic there. Okay. They would, from what I understand about the little bit of researching I did on the druids, like once I got on the Lep Castle, I was like, oh shit, this is way better. But druids would often do human sacrifices. Of course. And they were very much keeping like the pagan traditions alive in a way, kind of like what you would equate to being like a stereotypical witch almost, like what the witch before like modern witchcraft and Wiccan stuff starts, where they're doing the human sacrifices and it's all very nature based stuff. Sure. They would do a lot of throat slitting. Yeah. It would be like the most precise throat slitting they could have to make sure that they got the most amount of blood. Oh my God. Into the ground for, crop growing and like different things. Is Lep Castle one of the places where supposedly King Arthur's buried? I didn't see anything on that. So I don't think so, but I saw something recently where they were trying to find either the burial place of King Arthur or supposedly where the sword and the stone was. Okay. And that sounds what reminded me of it was like the sacrifice and like trying to get the blood into the grass and all that to get it to grow or whatever. And that kind of rung a bell. But okay, continue. Yeah. As far as I know, nothing Arthurian has happened at Lep Castle. Gotcha. Just much, much worse. Oh, God. Yeah. So it's constructed on this druidic burial or druidic ritual site. There actually was a preserved or a mummified druid discovered. Oh, that's cool. In the castle at some point. I forget, it was maybe like early 1900s or late 1800s. They found the mummified druid body who, when they did scientific research on it, found that his skin had high traces of copper. So it was deduced that druids had covered him in a copper paint. That's cool. Slit his throat because they're thinking that he was another druid. Like they think it was like a rite of passage or something. Okay. Because they're like into reincarnation. Once you're done with this life, your energy just goes into something else, and now you're going to be. It's almost like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm like, if you strike me down now, I will become far more powerful than you can even imagine. Okay. They found mistletoe remnants in his stomach, which mistletoe was a sacred herb to the druids. So putting that in there, covering him in copper paint. And on the way that he was killed with, finding the slit throat, they think it was a rite. Once Ireland starts to become more Christianized and, that stuff and the warring clans start coming into play, the castle gets built. Nobody really knows why the castle was built. It just was. The prominent family that lived there were called the O'Carroll clan. Okay. And the O'Carrolls were apparently a ruthless, violent group of Irishmen or Irish family. And nobody really knows why or how they got there. It's assumed that they were pretty much just run out of wherever they were from because they were like
just hated people,
the most hated Irish people that like all of Ireland were just like, hey, fuck these guys in particular.
It's just awful.
Yeah. They're just like the worst scumbags. It's like, so they ended up at Lep Castle, and that's kind of where the story, like the dark history, starts to come into play.
Oh, now is where it starts. Now is where it gets juicy.
Yeah. So, like I said, the O'Carrolls are a violent group of clansmen, and they pretty much kill anybody that's trying to take land from them. People try to wage war on them. They never win. The O'Carrolls are just too big and too powerful for any of that to happen. The patriarch of the O'Carroll clan, he passes away. He has two sons. And of course, back then, whoever dies goes to the firstborn son, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So it goes to the firstborn son. The firstborn son doesn't really want the castle, doesn't want anything to do with it. He actually ends up being a priest. The other son,
good for him.
You think so?
Oh God!
Just hold on to that.
No.
The other son absolutely wants the power of owning this castle and being the head of the clan. So what happens is the other brother is leading a sermon in what is the chapel of the castle.
Okay.
They're in the middle of their mass, in the middle of their prayer. All of a sudden, the doors to this chapel just burst open, and there's the other son with a sword on his, or hand on the hilt of his sword, and two other people standing next to him. Pretty much, he just strides up to the guy leading the sermon and just plunges his sword into him, kills him instantly.
The brother, the priest?
Yeah. Kills the priest like instantly.
Oh, okay.
Right during mass, like he's in the middle of a sermon saying their prayers, and he just walks up to him, stabs him, and it kills him instantly.
Well, that's not as dark as I thought it was going to be. Like, it's dark. I thought you were about to tell me, like, oh, the priest was like this murderous, like, rapist or something.
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
So, I mean, yeah, that's unfortunate, but okay. I was like, no, don't tell me the pious man is not so pious at all.
No, he actually was a good dude. That's like I said, this is where the tragedy starts.
Okay.
So the priest, and a lot of people will speculate that he's one of the entities that haunts Lep Castle.
Okay.
Obviously, would make a lot of sense, but that room is now called the Bloody Chapel. For that reason, and also for a couple of other reasons.
Oh.
Fast forward a couple years, there's actually, I forget what the term for what this quote unquote room is. It's off of the Bloody Chapel, and it's like a dungeon, essentially.
Okay.
It's like a small little wooden door that opens up. They would put people down there. It was called a room of forgetting.
I shouldn't laugh at that.
It's like a room of forgetting.
It's like
you throw people down there and you forget about them.
It's like for like political purposes, like, oh, we can't call it a prison anymore. Yeah. We can't call it well, what do we call it? I'm at the room of forgetting. Write that down.
It's very Harry Potter-esque.
Like,
Harry Potter, did you go into the room of forgetting? I don't remember.
It's like, I hereby sentence you to 30 years in the room of forgetting. Yeah.
Sorry that we're making light of this, but it's super dark what happens.
Yeah.
But so yeah, basically what they would do is put people that they didn't like or whatever the prisoners were in this room, and one of two things would happen. The first thing would pretty much be that they would put them down there, again, quote unquote, forget about them in complete darkness until they died of starvation, whatever. So you have complete darkness, but you can still hear the people up above you toasting and cheersing and having dinners and having parties and stuff like that. Yeah.
Ooh, that's terrible.
Yeah. Or the second thing that, if you were lucky enough, I guess, instead of being tortured until you just starved to death, was there was a drop floor that would fall. It would open up and you would fall 8 or 12 feet down into a pit of spikes, wooden spikes.
Oh, these are some sadistic
fucks. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So there was the spike room, and it was discovered, I believe, in the early 1900s, 1902 or 1922, something along those lines. Archaeologists discovered this room, and they were trying to preserve parts of the castle, and they're tasked with the unfortunate responsibility of cleaning this room out that has not been discovered since it was used. And they end up actually finding about 150 bodies.
Oh my God.
They had 3 cartloads of human remains they had to take out of the castle.
I thought you were about to tell me the way that they discovered it was like a guy like, oh, what's this trap? It's just like, oh my God.
Jerry, no, I'm okay. Those spikes are very dull.
Oh.
But yeah, so they ended up taking 3 carts of human remains out of the castle. And of course, those are also, so now we're looking at 150 plus possible spirits haunting this location.
Yeah.
The next thing that happens in the Bloody Chapel, the O'Carrolls hire the help of a group called the McMahon Clan. And it's about 40 McMahons that help them in battle. They like train them for battle tactics and new ways of warfare and stuff like that. So they bring them back up to the castle and to the Bloody Chapel to have a toast for helping them train and stuff like that. What do you think happens?
You probably get piss drunk and a brawl breaks out.
Nope.
Or they just slaughter them.
The O'Carrolls poisoned all the food.
Why?
so that they didn't have to worry about feuding with the McMahons and or paying them for helping them train.
I was gonna say, yeah, man, these are some shiesty
so
people.
They kill 40 of the McMahon clan from poisoned foods, and it's said that one of the people that were at this ceremony, if you want to call it a ceremony,
sure,
this evil act, wrote that after they had murdered all of them, they like went into a frenzy, and they ended up cutting the heads off of every person and started kicking the heads out of the windows like footballs onto the castle grounds. So
and that's how the game of soccer was created. Man, what is wrong with these people?
It's fucked, man. It's fucked.
Jeez.
Yeah, Carol's were fucked. So there's also the alleged sightings of headless people walking around the castle, looking, moaning and groaning, looking for their lost heads.
That's
so now we're up to about 200 potential spirits haunting this castle.
Okay, two questions. Is this considered one of the most haunted sites in Ireland?
It is considered the most haunted site in Ireland.
Okay. Question number two. I wonder if, well, I mean, I guess it's not really a question, but more of like speculation. I wonder if to this day, if the O'Carroll name has like negative connotations.
Oh, you know, that's a good question. I don't know.
I wonder if like, if in modern Ireland, if you go and like,
and you're like, hey, my name's Timmy O'Carroll. Like, get the fuck out of my pub, you fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like the...
I'm a McMahon, and your clan murdered half of my family.
Well, it's like very real like, over there.
It could be.
I think I had a professor in college who was Irish. No, he was Scottish, but he would talk about how when he was growing up, it was a very real feud between the Protestants and the Catholics because they have like that tumultuous history of. And he was like, when they would play soccer with each other, like if you walked into, the Protestant side of town wearing a Catholic jersey, like you would get your shit fucked up. He was like, you didn't do that. So it's crazy.
Yeah. That kind of leads into the next portion of the story. So the O'Carrolls kind of start to go by the wayside. But by this time, Mary Tudor is Queen of England, and she starts trying to take over lands and make them Catholic or whatever, Protestant or whatever. So Bloody Mary is also involved in this story to a degree. Man. To a degree. She doesn't really have a whole lot of, but she ends up sending, troops and stuff like that to start seizing castle grounds and certain strongholds and stuff like that.
Lands and all that.
So a fellow by the name of John Darby ends up getting captured by the O'Carrolls, and he's locked up in the top of so the story goes, he's locked up at one of the top chambers of the castle. And they're just like, well, we're going to keep this English captain hostage until the queen is like, okay, you can keep your lands or whatever. Again, the story goes that one of the O'Carroll daughters falls in love with captain, just giving him food, sneaking him food every night. They have long talks, so on and so forth. One of her brothers finds out about the plan to help him escape because they planned on killing him. So she gets the key and frees him. And the one brother knew about the plan, so he's like going to go up to try to stop it. He's on his way, like Darby is on his way down the steps as one of the O'Carroll sons are on the way up. Basically, it ends up with the O'Carroll kid on the bottom of the staircase with a broken neck, dead. So Darby and the O'Carroll daughter end up marrying. Time goes on. They come back. They come into possession of the castle. So now this castle is owned by the Darby family.
Okay.
It's said that John Darby, after a certain amount of time, started to go insane because again, this castle has fucking everything. It's claimed that he started going insane because there was a curse put on him after he killed the O'Carroll in his own house. So he starts going insane, starts wandering the halls. He starts stashing money places. He becomes obsessed with becoming wealthy. So he starts wandering the halls, stashing money places. And it's also kind of speculated that maybe he never actually put money anywhere. He just was like losing his shit and thought that he was, but then he would forget where he put it.
Sure.
Wander up and down the halls and stuff. So he starts going insane and it's, just crazy. So he's one of the spirits that are now also supposedly haunted. You see him wandering the halls, looking and hearing the knocks on the doors.
Looking for his money.
Yeah. Time passes. I believe he marries again to a younger person. And her name was Mildred Darby. Well, it becomes Mildred Darby. She's a young, 20-year-old. She's described as being quite, what's the word? Like back then, they're quite
noble,
kind of noble, but she's like, she was trained, she was educated at Oxford. She was like smart. She was funny. She was like, she was like a prominent person. Like she's a well-to-do kind of person.
High society. Yeah.
Right. So marries her, and she's the one that actually starts to see him go insane and stuff like that. So their marriage ends up on the rocks, but she starts to write stories, quote unquote fiction stories, because women weren't allowed to write really back then. So she penned all these stories under a false name and sold them to other people. But they were like pretty much like spooky ghost stories about the castle. And she would use different names so that nobody knew it was her stories that she was telling in a fictional way.
Yeah.
So she was telling stories about, all the ghosts and spirits that she had seen, but she starts to write, about the elemental.
I don't like that. I don't like that. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Not about that life.
So the elemental basically is described as, in Celtic folklore or Irish folklore, elemental has an element of nature, earth, wind, fire, etc.
So when you say she's writing about elemental and it, is it two separate things she's writing
she
about?
She would never refer to it as a he or a she or anything like that. It was an it.
But when we hear in what she's describing it's the elemental. It's the elemental. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So the elemental, and again, exactly what it sounds like, is an element of some sort of nature.
Yeah.
And the Druids believed there was a lot of ways that you could get an elemental, but in this particular case, elemental was like the personification of death and decay, which is a natural thing of life, is death.
I wonder if that's inspired Stephen King's It.
Yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
So she starts to write, and it's she describes it as being a non-humanoid face, but like humanoid features, but a non-humanoid face with a jaw that goes back and then slopes drastically at its neck, with large gums that thick saliva dripping from them. It was about her height, a little bit shorter, but like a gray mass that had long hands and fingers, and she felt them go onto her shoulders. And Nick is over here cringing at the thought of this.
No, that's just that. It's like 10 types of fuck that, 4 no's, and 3 get the fuck out of here.
She said when she looked, she saw a thing about the size of a sheep with a gaunt, inhuman face. It had black cavities for eyes and had the smell of a decomposing corpse. So a lot of people believe that an elemental was never a human or was never a part of our physical realm. They think that it's a manifestation of pretty much all the disaster and torment and torture that happened at this castle. Like it's an inhuman spirit that just kind of came to be.
Kind of comes into fruition or into creation from the negative energy.
Yes.
Of all the heinous acts and just turmoil that has happened at the location.
Yep. So it's almost like the personification. It's not the personification of evil, but it's like the personification or manifestation of death.
Like trauma, death. Like, oof. Mm-hmm. I don't like that. That's awful.
So she also had reports of seeing I believe it was called the murder hole room. So in her story, she put it in the perspective of the husband seeing a red blood stain on the floor. Yeah. And he leaves, it's gone, and then it comes back like over and over and over and over again. Yeah. It just keeps like remanifesting itself. Yeah. Supposedly, that's supposed to be the blood of the priest that was stabbed to death by his brother in the bloody chapel. The next one is a story that she wrote about the Red Lady, which has also been encountered by a lot of people that visit the castle for like ghost hunting and stuff like that. Yeah. Trigger warning. The story goes that Red Lady is the ghost of a woman captured and raped by the O'Carrolls. She got pregnant as a result, and the O'Carrolls killed the baby, and in despair, she killed herself.
Oh my God.
The Red Lady has been seen carrying a dagger in her hand and raising it menacingly as if wanting to stab someone.
Oh my God.
So basically people they see this lady dressed in a crimson red cloak with a dagger, and then if she like sees you, she starts to come at you, and then right before she gets to you, she disappears.
I hope she finds her peace.
I would like that too. I don't think that she's ever going to, but
I hope she finds her peace. That is terrible.
Yeah. And then one of the last things I'll touch on is the ghosts of 2 young girls. 2 young girls have been seen and heard playing in Leap Castle. Castle visitors often see them playing in the hall and running up and down the stairs. They are called Emily and Charlotte. Emily died at the age of 11 when she fell from the battlements, and many people have seen her ghost falling from the castle and disappearing before hitting the ground. Charlotte has been seen dragging her deformed legs behind her.
That's dark.
Super dark. That's what I'm saying, man. When I found Leap Castle, like in my research, I was like, there's no way that I'm not talking about this. Like, there's so much meat on this bone.
Oh my goodness. Good Lord. Wow. That's It's dark. It's fucked up.
That's pretty much the long and the short of it. Like I said, there's a potential rough estimate of about 230 spirits that haunt this place. So if it's open to the public, you can go and visit it. You can go as a tour. They allow paranormal investigators to go in.
Oh, that's cool.
People have had multiple experiences seeing all of these things. Multiple guests have seen the girl falling from the battlements. They say that they see a girl. They don't hear a scream. They don't hear anything. They just see a body falling off of the battlements. And right before she hits the ground, she disappears. If they go to try to find her or see if she needs help. Is she okay? Did she die? Whatever. They never find anybody. Yeah. So there's also, as they were rebuilding it, because it was lit on fire during the Irish Civil War, they actually found a bunch of secret passages and secret rooms and tunnels and stuff like that in there. And Mildred Darby actually wrote in her stories that the spirits were telling her that there were places in the castle like that. So it's possible that maybe the spirits were trapped in a way.
Oh.
And they would find, like when the archaeologists found some of these places, the windows were boarded from the outside and from the inside. So like somebody really didn't want whatever was in there to get out.
Ooh, that's creepy. No, I think the creepiest thing out of all of that is the elemental.
Yeah.
No,
isn't that wild?
That.
I've never heard of anything like that before.
Nothing.
But
like with ghosts, it's like one thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Slenderman, that's essentially what
was that what he was like kind of based on?
He's not like an elemental per se, but he more or less is. It's the kind of thing where so many people believe in him that belief brings him into his existence, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Because he started out just like an internet meme, and for the most part, he still is believed. Like, people actually don't believe in his existence, but that's like the whole idea behind it. But
he's kind of like Freddy Krueger. Like, remember in Freddy vs. Jason, Freddy couldn't come back because nobody was scared of him or believed him in anymore. Yeah. So he had to quote unquote hire Jason to kill like all the people so he could manifest himself back into existing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Kind of like that.
Oh, just the description of the elemental, like the sunken eyes and
black cavities for eyes,
and like like there's something scarier about it being shorter than taller.
Yeah, like it. Like I have to think about like Mildred Darby probably was like a typical. She was probably like 5'2", 5'3", maybe like whatever like was the average woman height for like back then.
Yeah, and to say that this thing is like shorter than you, oh man. I think of something crazy. I'm thinking of something taller than me. But no, like to be shorter, with long caterpillar fingers, I don't like that.
I'll read to you what it says. This is on lepcastle.net about what the elemental, kind of what the description. The elemental is one of the most interesting spirits that resides at Lep Castle. It is an entity that is shrouded in mystery and intrigue. The first encounter, origin, and exact nature of the elemental are unknown, but there are many theories that have circulated over the years. As mentioned, the time of its appearance is not certain, but there have been vague mentions of a troublesome spirit at Lep Castle since early times. One early belief is that the elemental was put there by druids long before the castle was built to protect the sacred site used for initiations in druidic magic. Another theory is that the elemental was placed there by invading force to burn the castle from the inside. The person responsible is thought to be Gerald Fitzgerald, Earl of Kildare. He was a renowned magic practitioner and had attempted to take over the castle on several occasions. Local myths say that the elemental is the spirit of an ancient O'Carroll who died in the castle from leprosy. This is said that the reasoning for the decomposing facial features and appalling stench that accompanies the presence of the spirit. Mildred Darby was said to have dabbled in the occult. Her activities focused on seances and automatic writing. Some think that it was her dabbling that either awoken or summoned the elemental. It was around this time that the horrific discovery in the oblute, that's what I was thinking of, that's the word, oblute, the 3 cartloads of bones, approximately 150 bodies, the huge release of emotional energy linked to the spirits in the oblute upon their discovery may have been enough to wake up the dormant spirit. It was shortly after this that Mildred Darby would have her terrifying encounter with the elemental. Whatever this entity is, it only seems to make its presence known when people begin to provoke it. The current owners, the Ryans, have lived at Lep Castle since 1991 and have never felt its sinister presence. Mildred Darby was unknowingly provoking the elemental by her occult dabbling. Other individuals on the brunt of the elemental's fury have also been looking for it and have attempted to study the entity. So there are a few personal accounts of an encounter with the elemental. So an accurate description is quite hard to formulate. It may even appear different depending on how gifted an individual is at, quote-unquote, seeing spirits. The best descriptions we have are those given by Mildred Darby, an associate staying at LEP. And if you'd like me for me to read what she wrote about what the elemental is, I can, but no. I'm going to read it anyway.
I want you to read it.
So this comes from Kilman Castle, The House of Horror, which was a story by Mildred. And since you read your little poem about Hy-Brasil. Suddenly, 2 hands were laid on my shoulders. I turned around sharply and saw, as clearly as I see you now, a gray thing standing a couple of feet from me, with its bent arms raised as if it were cursing me. I cannot describe in words how utterly awful the thing was, its very undefinableness rendering the horrible shadow more gruesome. Human in shape, a little shorter than I am. I could just make out the shape of big black holes like great eyes and sharp features, but the whole figure, head, face, hands, and all was gray, unclean, bluish gray, something of the color and appearance of common cotton wool. But oh so sinister, repulsive and devilish. My friends who are clever about occult things say it was what they call an elemental. The thing was about the size of a sheep, thin and gaunt and shadowy in parts. Its face was human, or to be more accurate, inhuman. In its vileness, with large holes of blackness for eyes, loose, slobbery lips, and a thick saliva-dripping jaw, sloping back suddenly into its neck. Nose, it had none, only spreading cancerous cavities. The whole face being a uniform tint of gray. This, too, was the color of the dark, coarse hair covering its head, neck, and body. Its forearms were thickly coated with the same hair, so were its paws, large, loose, and hand-shaped, and it was sat on its hind legs, and one hand or paw was raised, and a claw-like finger was extended ready to scratch the paint. Its lustreless eyes, which seemed half decomposed and looked incredibly foul, stared into mine, and the horrible smell which had before offended my nostrils, only 100 times intensified, came up to my face, filling me with a deadly nausea. I noticed the lower half of the creature was indefinite, and it seemed semi-transparent at least. I could see the framework of the door that led into the gallery through its body. End quote.
That's terrifying, but cool at the same time.
That is not something that I would like to encounter anytime soon.
No, yeah, like
I'd be good.
Yeah, I could probably live out the rest of my life and not run into that thing. That'd be nice.
Yep, that'd be good.
That'd be cool.
Like it said in the quote there, Sean Ryan owns the castle since '91. I assume still owns it today. I haven't seen anything different.
Yeah.
He's never experienced it, so.
Okay.
But he has said that he has experienced other things. He said that the spirits have just as much of a right to be there as he does. Good on him.
Yeah.
Good on him for embracing that. Because if you're going to live in the most haunted place in Ireland, you have to expect it.
Yeah, you can't complain. You don't buy that home or that castle and not expect spooky, weird things to happen. So, yeah, good on him.
Any closing thoughts on Lep Castle?
I kind of want to revisit Lep in some future episodes.
Yeah. We could do that. We could do like a tier list of most haunted locations
in like the UK, the US, yeah, and kind of go from there.
World's most haunted places.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. No, that just sounds awful. Like clearly a lot of turmoil, a lot of trauma. And I hope a lot of those spirits can
dark history.
Yeah, it's an evil. Like, and again, like not to make fun or light of any of that. That's like terrible.
Yeah.
I hope that this.
It's like we always say, like we try to keep things light on the show when we discuss things as dark as that, because sometimes it can really get you.
For sure,
if you're not prepared. So
yeah, absolutely. And I hope that the spirits there can find like the rest and kind of
I wonder if anybody's like tried to like sage that place or like do any rituals
to kind of purify it, or not purify it, but
just like put the spirits at ease.
Yeah, help them pass on. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure maybe. But no,
I guess at some point maybe just there's nothing you can do. If the druids had did some kind of magic thing to
like a
consecrate that land or curse that land permanently.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
The O'Carrolls too, those jerks. Like, oh my God, just like awful.
Yeah, they were not good people.
They mean, hurt people, so I'm sure they probably had things going on in their own lives too.
I don't really think that that's the case for these people. I think that was just the nature of the time they lived in.
Could have just been that they were trying to survive. And through that, survival.
Like as you try to survive, you just become more brutal and less. It's almost like you become less human.
You lose like your moral code.
Yeah, you lose yourself. I know.
And it's like pure primal brutality. Mm-hmm. Like, that's terrible.
In the quest for land and power and status.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That was interesting that you shared that you found that like there's a lot of history there that we really need to explore.
I would love to go and see it. Like I just want to go to Ireland anyway, but like to see a place like that would be insane. I assume like as soon as you walk in the front door, if you're like sensitive to that kind of stuff,
you feel it.
You probably just like you get like it hit with like a wet towel. You know, you know what I mean? Like it probably just feels different in there.
Yeah, just like ooh.
I don't like this. I don't like the vibes. As the kids would say these days.
The vibes are not immaculate.
Yeah. Well, that was Leap Castle and Hy-Brasil, two of Ireland's famous staples. One is an actual concrete place filled with death and torture and despair. The other is possibly a mythical island with fairies and leprechauns and
just all sorts of debauchery. I don't know if it's actually debauchery going on there. It's just a mythical place.
A mythical place.
Yeah.
More like Middle Earth, maybe.
Middle Earth, yeah, just like a mystical land.
Yeah. Or I would probably equate it more to like Valinor, if you're any Lord of the Rings fans out there.
No.
Like we sail west to Valinor, it's like that.
Pretty much. And who knows, maybe that's how Valinor was inspired.
It could have been. I mean, Tolkien English. Absolutely could have been inspired by
Legends of
Hybrasil.
Hy-Brasil, yeah. What are your closing thoughts? What are we talking about next? What are we giving our viewers?
I don't know.
Viewers, listeners.
I don't know. It's like springtime now.
Should do some like Easter.
Starting to, we already did Bunny Man. Now that I think about it retroactively, I'm like, man, fuck, Bunny Man would have been a great one to talk about for Easter.
Talk about some pagan traditions.
Yeah, like Ostara or Ostara.
Yeah.
We'll
see.
We got plenty of stuff. I mean, we can still, like I said, we like barely scratched the surface with Irish stuff.
Yeah.
Because like we have druids, banshees, leprechauns. Not necessarily spooky things, I guess, per se, but I mean, in some mythologies, fairies and stuff like that are very like scary things that should not be fucked with.
Depending on how you view them, they could either be helpful or they could be kind of malicious.
Yeah. And like we always say, if there's anything out there that you guys are particularly interested in that you would like to hear us research and like talk about and try to get to the bottom of, just let us know. Let us know in the comments. Let us know wherever you're listening. Drop us a line. Follow us on social media, Shadows and Sightings, a paranormal podcast on Facebook, Shadows and Sightings pod on Instagram, or send us an email, shadowsandsightings@gmail.com. We are going to try to get back into our routine of dropping our episodes every Thursday now that we're back from our vacations and back from other things. And unless life bitch slaps us in the face, like sometimes it does, we should have our episodes to you every week on Thursdays, starting this Thursday. Oh. As I'm saying this Thursday, today. It's dropping today. So we thank everybody out there for continuing to listen to our show. We appreciate your patience with our hectic schedule and our sometimes not so consistent release date, but that's life.
Yep.
So we appreciate everybody sticking with us, and we hope you guys are enjoying these episodes as much as we are enjoying talking about them and researching them. Till next time, we'll see you then when we talk about all things spooky.